In this video, we'll be ranking quarterbacks going into the 2025 to 2026 season, starting with the super tier. Patrick Mahomes kicks off our list. This one's kind of no-brainer. Mahomes pretty much only has strengths. His greatest strength is that he's clutch. However, he's also a great leader, has great eyes when it comes to seeing the field and reading the defense, known for making acrobatic plays, as well as meshing with all of the weapons that he's had in his time with Kansas City. I can tell you this, a lot of girls in his high school are regretting that they couldn't get past his voice. Andy Reid's play calling only emphasizes the abilities that Mahomes had coming out of college and has had extreme success in the NFL and has eyes of replacing Brady as the GOAT. Next, we have Josh Allen. Josh Allen is one of those quarterbacks that would definitely have a Super Bowl under his belt if Mahomes didn't exist. I believe Mahomes has knocked him out of the playoffs 4 times already. But he is the reigning MVP, and while he could be a great dual-threat quarterback, which is primarily how he started his career, he is an elite passer at this point in the game. And if you need a first down, there's no doubt Josh Allen will get it with his arms or his legs. The only downfall to Josh Allen's playoff success has been his defense, and while they have been solid, they have not been elite enough to be able to get past the top teams. Next, we have Joe Burrow. While Joe Burrow only has 1 season of playoff success, he consistently is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL year after year, and when the Bengals start off with a bad record, he always finds a way to be clutch in games to pull them back in, even against the best of teams. His mean mug made me want to move him down 2 tiers, but I guess we'll have to live with that. He does have some great weapons in Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, but as we saw in college, and ever since he entered the NFL, he is extremely accurate and always makes a play when it's needed. Next, we have Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson is definitely the best dual-threat quarterback in the NFL. He has the run skills and agility of some of the best receivers in the NFL, and he has improved as a passer every year. Lamar Jackson actually is a much more clutch quarterback than most people give him credit for. However, he has the same problem that Josh Allen does, in that he's been knocked out by Mahomes twice now in the playoffs. Next, we have the A tier, starting with Jayden Daniels. Jayden Daniels is an anomaly at quarterback. He's only 1 year in, and I really wanted to put him on the super tier, but I feel like sustained success is a requirement of that. His strengths are that he's an extreme playmaker, great leader, and is always calm under pressure. The only 2 weaknesses I can think of is 1, his frame and his size worries me about potential injuries, and the other is just his lack of experience. But beyond that, Jayden Daniels is well on his way to becoming one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Next, we have Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is an extremely solid quarterback. He's known as a dual-threat quarterback as well. However, his running abilities is mainly used in short yardage at the goal line, but he can definitely break off runs out of shotgun. He has improved as a passer as well, and he does have great weapons in A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. So he does not always get as much credit as he deserves, but he is the reigning Super Bowl MVP. I would say that he benefits a lot off of having a great system and a very solid offensive coordinator, but the fact that Jalen Hurts has had sustained playoff success, he definitely deserves to be here. Hashtag bring back Bama Dreads. Next we have Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford has been one of the best quarterbacks in the league since he entered it. He has had 1 season of very solid playoff success when he won the Super Bowl. Beyond that, he has been extremely competitive with the Rams, including last year when they almost knocked off the Super Bowl champions in the divisional round. I would say the only weakness at this point is his age. He has a great call player in Sean McVay, and while he doesn't necessarily have the weapons at this point beyond Puka, the Rams are always capable of anything with him and McVay. Next, we have Jordan Love. Jordan Love may be a product of the system and has a great head coach play caller in LaFleur that has gotten him to this point in his career. He does have a diverse amount of receivers. However, success is success. I see Jordan Love as one of the better young quarterbacks in this league and would not be surprised to see him have future playoff success, especially in the NFC where he doesn't have to go through the gauntlet of super quarterbacks listed above. Next, we have the B tier, starting with Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert is probably the most talented, talked-about quarterback that has never done anything in the playoffs. He has Jim Harbaugh as a head coach, and that gives him a lot of attention. And while Justin Herbert can be very competitive in the regular season, unfortunately his teams have never been good enough to either make it to the playoffs or have sustained success in the playoffs. I wouldn't necessarily say that has much to do with him beyond the fact that the Chargers have not been a great run organization. And Justin Herbert definitely suffers from that. Regardless, I still believe he feels to be leading the B tier. Next, we have Baker Mayfield. This one was actually tough for me because Baker can be extremely immature, and his play over the years has been inconsistent at times. But ever since he got to Tampa Bay, he's outrun his haters like he outran the police in college. Very accurate, very high efficiency when it comes to passing. He has been with some great offensive coordinators, and he does have great weapons in Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. But Baker's competitiveness, and honestly, he is a good leader, and it's shown with his team and how they rally around him. He deserves to be here. Next, we have Jared Goff, probably the most vanilla quarterback in the NFL. He does a good job, not necessarily a great job. He does have great weapons in Laporta, in Amon-Ra St. Brown, and a solid backfield. He has a great offensive line, a great head coach, just a great organization from the Detroit Lions in general. And while Jared Goff is a very solid quarterback, as showcased with his time with the Rams, I can't say he has any elite skills that puts him above the spot where he is right now. But I definitely wouldn't say he has any major weaknesses that would make him drop. Next, we have C.J. Stroud. C.J. Stroud is a great young quarterback, very accurate. He took the league by storm in his rookie year and fell off a little bit last year. Some people blame that on injuries, other people blame it on Bobby Slovic. And while C.J. Stroud has many solid qualities, I would like to see more sustained success before I move him up further than here. Next, we have Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott is a good quarterback. I wouldn't say he's a great quarterback. I would say he belongs right in the middle of quarterbacks, which is where I placed him. He always puts up great numbers. I think he has had great coaching over the years, and he does have C.D. Lamb, which helps him. His greatest strengths, you could say, are his leadership abilities and his character. But I would say a weakness of his is that he doesn't have any quarterback traits beyond that put him over the edge. Next, we have Bo Nix. Bo Nix actually surprised me when I started ranking quarterbacks and placing him here. I didn't think that Bo Nix would be very high up, especially when he was first drafted. But honestly, in Sean Payton's system, Bo Nix is a very solid quarterback, even without many impressive weapons, and I definitely think he'll have sustained success in the future. Next, we have Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy is the most controversial quarterback in the NFL, mainly due to the fact that he's been on a team that has the most talented players, or at least the most all-pro players in the NFL over the last several seasons. There's nothing that Brock Purdy necessarily does extremely well, although he's a great game manager and is able to get the ball to his most talented teammates when needed. He's undersized, and I would say a weakness of his is that he has not had the ability to come up in the clutch. While he has not had many chances, I like to see if that's something he can do in the future, to see if he can actually become a franchise quarterback in this league. Next, we have Sam Darnold. This ranking is purely based off of his performance last year in his time with the Vikings and Kevin O'Connell's scheme. I think this shows Sam Darnold's ability if he ends up in the right system, but his biggest weakness is what the critics say, in that he takes too many risks and he's too reckless of a quarterback. And if he doesn't end up in the right system, he'll be seeing ghosts again. Next, we have a C tier, starting with Tua. Tua Tagovailoa is a solid quarterback, and he has been since he came out of Alabama. He's a great passer and distributor of the ball. His biggest weakness is the obvious one. He can't stay healthy, and until he can stay healthy, the Dolphins are not going to have success, and he won't move up on this tier list. Next, we have Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence had a lot of hype coming into the NFL, and while I do believe he is a solid passer and a great leader, he has had nowhere the amount of success in the regular season or in the playoffs that he should for how talented that he is, but I attribute a lot of that to the Jaguars organization. Regardless, it will affect his ranking, and this is where he's going to be. Next is Michael Penix Jr. Penix Jr. may have the biggest leap after this season, because we only had a small sample size of a couple games last year. But in those couple games, I feel like he flashed greatness, and in the clutch showed up as a great quarterback. He was excellent in college, and I could see him at the top of the B tier going into next year and the year after that move into the A tier easily. Next, we have Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray is a very solid dual-threat quarterback. He's a good passer, he's a great runner, he doesn't have any major weaknesses besides his size, but unfortunately, as long as he stays with the Cardinals, he's never going to have an extreme amount of success, and that's going to always bring down his ranking. Next, we have Geno Smith. Geno Smith honestly shocked me that he was this high. A lot of people would argue that he should be much higher. The fact that he's tight with Antonio Brown definitely makes me question his judgment. I think it helped a lot to have DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett in Seattle. I'm not necessarily sure if he'll have that same success in Oakland, but regardless, Geno showed that he's a competent quarterback when he has solid weapons to work with. But beyond that, I don't think there's anything too special about him. Next, we have Aaron Rodgers. Once one of the best quarterbacks in the league, Rodgers has fallen off quite a bit. There was a lot of criticism with him in his time on the Jets. I think the fact that he left the Packers that have a great offensive system and he went to the Jets, which is one of the most poorly run organizations in the NFL, definitely contributes to that. What people don't realize is that he did finish the season playing pretty well. And some people might think it's ridiculous that he's even ranked this high. But honestly, he still has the ability to make plays and the mind to do it. Next, we have Bryce Young. Bryce Young surprised me a lot last year. I thought he was a total bust after his rookie season. But you bring Dave Canales in a C, right away this kid can play. He came up clutch against great teams like the Chiefs and the Eagles. And I see Bryce developing into a pretty solid quarterback and maybe even moving up a tier after next season. Caleb Williams was also one of the most hyped players coming out of college that I can remember. I don't think that he necessarily had a very impressive season, especially with all the weapons that he had, but a lot of people blame that on his coaching. I put Caleb Williams here essentially based on potential and that he lives up to the hype that people put around him, but I think at this point he is a little bit too confident in his ability and can make a lot of poor throws or a lot of arrogant decisions in conflict, and I don't believe that's necessarily a great quarterback quality. So I hope that with time and experience, he can become a little bit more humble and a little bit more cautious, and I think that will go a long way. Next is the D tier, starting with Russell Wilson. Again, one of the better quarterbacks in the league if you go back to his earlier years. He has not done anything really since he left Seattle. So putting him here purely based off of his resume and that he can play to even be 50% of what he once was. Next, we have Drake May. I did not think that he was a great draft pick, especially as high as he was taken. Last year, I believe that he proved that to some degree. He did have some performances where he was able to come back, and that was impressive, but I don't think there are any traits about Drake May specifically that will ever bring him above the C tier. I do love the offensive coaching in New England or the lack of weapons either. Next, we have Cam Ward. I think Cam Ward may also be a very overhyped quarterback prospect. However, we can't see that until he plays in the NFL, so he's ranked here right now based off the fact that he has no experience. A lot of people think that he can be as high as an A or B tier. I think that's yet to see, especially in a terrible organization. Next, we have J.J. McCarthy. Out of college, J.J. didn't have anything special or impressive as a quarterback beyond his leadership abilities. But in the preseason last year, he did show flashes. I think he could be a good quarterback just based off the fact that the Vikings have an incredible system and coaching staff, and we'll see how that benefits him. It also doesn't hurt to have Justin Jefferson to throw the ball to. Next, we have Shedeur Sanders. I think Sanders' draft fall was a product of his name and what a lot of people see him as arrogant and immature. I do think Shedeur is a solid quarterback. I think he proved that in college, and I think it will translate to the NFL, but he's probably going to be beat out as the starter in Cleveland by our next quarterback, Joe Flacco. There's not much to say about Flacco. He belongs where he belongs. He can make big plays, but he takes too many risks, just like Jameis Winston, so he throws a lot of picks. I think he will be the Browns starter, but once again, the Browns' terrible organization won't do anything with him. Finally, we have the F tier starting with Kenny Pickett. I think Kenny will be the immediate backup to Flacco. Kenny is just very blah, nothing special, not much to say about him, and I don't see that he has any traits that will ever make him a very solid quarterback. Next, we have Justin Fields. Fields is an okay passer. He's a great runner. I think that sums it up. I don't ever see him having much success in the NFL, especially with the Jets. But man, does he always look swaggy. Next, we have Anthony Richardson. I would say it's the exact same description that I just gave on Justin Fields. Beyond the fact that the Colts are a little bit better of an organization, but I don't see him remaining as a starter there. Finally, we finish up with Tyler Shaw and Spencer Rattler. I don't think either one of these quarterbacks are going to be very impressive, and while I think the Saints have a good offensive system, I don't see either one of these quarterbacks ever performing above a low to average tier, but more towards the low tier. Well, that rounds out our rankings. Thanks for watching, and comment below on who you'd move up or down.